Now, there's no doubt that right now, the vibe you get from Chicago sports, depending upon your perspective, is upbeat, positive, dare I say exciting. I'm not a White Sox fan, but if you are, you're certainly happy about where that team is right now. Feel like you've got a contender. They're going to make the playoffs. Once you get in the playoffs in baseball, you never know what's going to happen. For the Chicago Bears, we just watched their preseason opener against the Dolphins, and no matter how much Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace want to be stubborn about Andy Dalton, it's clear and obvious that Justin Fields is QB1. Justin Fields should be the starter. And you see a guy with elite physical tools, sure with some flaws in his game, but still some big-time upside, big-time talent. He can make big-time plays. That's a reason to get excited. When you talk about the Bears, I have a lot of that. And when you talk about the Chicago Bulls, they certainly are doing their part to bring some of the excitement. Once they made the big deal for Vucevic around the trade deadline back earlier in the year, you knew that started the clock. You knew that meant that this team was going to have to get aggressive in this offseason. Because why would you make that deal and not do so? Once you make that deal and you give up 2 future first-round picks and the other pieces you did and you bring in a Vucevic, you're saying, we are starting the window to compete. We think we are starting the window to contend, and it's now and for the next few years. And we will see whether or not that ultimately is the right decision. But beyond question, we knew that this team was going to have to make some moves, and some notable, sizable moves to make up the gap and the distance from where they finished last season to where they want to be. Because if you're going to make that deal for Vucevic and you're going to explore, sometime in the next year giving Zach LaVine a max contract extension, then you can't be doing that trying to be a 5 or 6 seed in the Eastern Conference. That's stupid. What the hell team logically would want to do that? You've got to go all in, and you've got to go all in now. And to the Bulls' credit, they certainly went out and made some big moves happen. First, of course, is the sign and trade that ultimately landed Lonzo Ball in Chicago. This was a deal we were expecting to happen around the trade deadline several months back. Maybe wish it would have happened several months back. To be able to bring in a guy like Lonzo Ball, his size at the point guard position, and his ability to facilitate, be a bit of a spot-up shooter, his ability to defend multiple positions on the perimeter, certainly has an appeal and a very nice fit for the Chicago Bulls. Hopefully it comes at more than 55 or 60 games a season, which Lonzo has averaged these first 4 years of his career. I'd like to see more tick out of him for the $20 million plus you're going to pay him on average over the next 4 years, or 3 with the player option. But it was the low-hanging fruit of the move that they wanted to make. You knew that they needed to make, and they did it. And then once they did that, it's like, okay, now you've got Zach LaVine on the tail end of what looks like a really team-friendly contract, just short of the $20 million a year. You've got to go get another big piece now. And they did that with the acquisition via sign and trade of DeMar DeRozan to giving him the 3-year, whatever it was, $85 million contract. Certainly Eversley and AK went to work in this offseason trying to retool and reload and reshape the Chicago Bulls roster. And to their credit, they certainly have. There is no question that this team is better than they were at the start of the offseason. The question to me is, what's next for the Chicago Bulls? Where are they at? How far away are they from where they really should be wanting to be? And what is it going to take to get there? Because I want to be clear. I know a lot of you that are Bulls fans have some good feelings and some buzz. You're sitting there watching Patrick Williams do good things in the summer league, and you're like, the paw's got to break out in year 2. I need to pump the brakes on that in a little bit more in a second. But you're looking at the acquisitions of Lonzo Ball and DeMar DeRozan, and you're like, oh my God, drafting Ayo Dosunmu and getting him to fall where he did in round 2, it feels like the stars are aligning for the Bulls. And look, I get it. There's a reason to be excited. This team got better. There's no question about that. But it's also important to remember that this team was what? The 11th seed? Meaning they were the first team out of the playoffs this past year? Let's not put the cart before the skis here. Let's not break out the anointing oil just yet. Because when I look at this team, and maybe this is me being greedy, but I think after what we've had the past couple decades in large part with the Chicago Bulls, it's okay to be greedy. I think I look at this and I say, this is not a championship team. And if you're not building a championship team, then what the hell are you making all of these moves for? Because I look at this roster right now, and I see a team that's more in like the 3 to 6 range than they are 1 or 2 in the East and a legit contender. Because if I look at where they got better, mid-range scoring with DeRozan, they certainly got better there. They've got another guy that could create his own shot off the dribble. They got a weapon in the mid-range game that they really didn't have, so that was certainly a welcome addition. Their outside shooting got better with the signing of Alex Caruso, the acquisition of Lonzo Ball. They got better there. They've got more shooters to help space out the floor alongside Levine, and Vucevic could be even more important with a guy like DeRozan. You got Patrick Williams, who's a solid outside shooter. So their outside shooting, got better. Their perimeter defense with the acquisition of Lonzo Ball and Alex Caruso, certainly saw an uptick and an upgrade. Talking about the drafting of Dosunmu, he's a guy that could defend multiple positions. You look at Ball and Caruso and Dosunmu. Those are guys that can guard 1s, 2s, 3s. So the positionless defenders are multiple position defenders. And then you talk about the potential of starting Patrick Williams at the 4, where I think his athleticism and his skills play much better. His defensive versatility is going to play even better there because you're going to have him guarding 3s and 4s, balancing out there. You look at him, their perimeter defense certainly got better. They got more guys that can score, especially with DeRozan. Here's a guy that still averaged 20-plus a game and might still be able to do that within the confines of the offense of what you have with Levine and Vucevic. But I still think several questions remain for this team. And I think they're a bit further away from a championship contending team than maybe some Bulls fans are going to want to believe or agree with or want to pay attention to. But I look at this roster and I see some really notable things. Number one, why are Lauri Markkanen and Kobe White still there? Why? Especially Lauri. He really doesn't want to be there. The Bulls really don't want him there. Why hasn't he been packaged up in some type of sign and trade already? And if you say, well, nobody really wants to give him big money, oh, maybe they don't, but you got to find a way to entice somebody. Like maybe even putting together a package that involves Lowry and it involves Kobe and it's a 3-team deal. So that way you get a team to give up like a mid to late first round pick so they can get Kobe or Lowry. And you get the point. Like you can figure out ways to get creative, figure out ways to get moving pieces. Because I can't imagine you're going into this season and thinking that Lowry is what you need or Lowry is a good fit as a backup 4 or 5. He's not. That era has come and gone. And when you look at this roster, like, even if you want to sit there and say, hey, they brought in Tony Bradley. They've signed last year's second-round pick Simonovic. Like, they got younger in the front court. Yeah, but they also lost Daniel Tice and Thaddeus Young due to some of these different sign and trade deals. And some of these other moves they made come at a cost. And when you look at that front court, you could see some significant problems. Like, where is the credible, legit backup to Vucevic? The reality is they don't have one. It's a couple of relatively unproven guys. If you want to say, well, Patrick Williams is going to play a lot of minutes at the 4, and maybe he does, but then who backs him up? Like, what happens if either Williams or Vucevic gets hurt? You're going to have a significant gap and be very lacking there because I like Simonovic's skills and I like his upside, but I still think he's realistically probably another year away from being a real contributor here. He could be an appealing bench contributor in the 22-23 season, but 2021, 2022, I'm not so sold on that. I'm not so sure about that just yet. And Tony Bradley had some okay moments at Oklahoma City, but it was in a smaller role, less than 20 minutes a game. I just look at this front court, and it gives me pause. Where's the post defense? Where's the shot blocking presence? Where's the rebounding? They don't really have any. And that scares me. And when I look at Lowry, like he's not going to bring that. And when I look at Kobe White, how many minutes are you going to really be able to afford to play him? And you're going to say, hey, he's there as insurance in case Lonzo Ball goes down. But that's why you drafted Dosunmu. That's why you signed Alex Caruso. You have one too many of the same type of guys, at the same position, I should say, with a Kobe White. Different player, I grant you, but how many minutes are you going to really play him? How much are you going to really need him? Because you're anticipating probably Levine's going to play 35 minutes a night. DeRozan's going to play 30 to 35 minutes a night. And you would assume Lonzo, if healthy, is going to play at least 30 minutes a night. There's only but so many minutes you can distribute. And how many of them would you really want to distribute to Kobe White any damn ways? Like, he's going to be a high-volume, mediocre shooter. That's who he is. And the Bulls just really don't have the time or the ability to wait to see if he becomes a Lou Williams type of weapon off the bench or not. If you could go out there and you could bring in another piece or two, especially in that front court or even out on the wing, then you've got to do that. Because I'm sorry, I look at this team and I say, okay, what's their championship lineup? You know, their danger five, the clutch time five. Like, what's that lineup look like? Is it mostly their starting lineup? Like, does that feel like a championship starting five to you? It doesn't to me. And I know some of you are going to point to Patrick Williams. And look, I'm with you in this sense that I think the single most important player for the Chicago Bulls this upcoming season is Patrick Williams. I have concerns about, like, how much of a step back is Zach LaVine going to have to take in order to allow Vucevic to do what he could do, and to allow DeRozan to do what he could do, to allow Lonzo Ball to do what he could do, and to allow Patrick Williams to grow and to develop and improve his skills. You know, the reality is Patrick Williams is the most important player because he's the young guy with the upside. He's the guy that if he becomes what some of you want him to be, some type of Kawhi Leonard type of presence, like, it changes the whole trajectory of this Bulls organization, this Bulls rebuilding plan pretty damn quickly. How much of an opportunity is he going to really do that? You have to do that because LaVine's going to need his shots. Vucevic is going to need his shots. DeRozan's certainly going to need his shots. Especially if you're still going to keep Lowry and Kobe for some fucking reason of which I do not understand or know why. They're going to need some shots because if they're not shooting, then what the hell purpose do they serve you? Lonzo Ball, while offense is not, you know, in terms of scoring, is not the biggest part of his game, he's going to need some shots too. Like, there's only going to be so much to go around in that offense. There's only going to be so many shots and so many opportunities, and there's only one basketball. Like, how much more opportunity do you really think Patrick Williams is going to be able to have to develop in the grand scheme of things? You can talk about Summer League, but in Summer League, he could be the alpha dog there. He comes in here, he's just a cog in the wheel. And before you bring up the Kawhi Leonard comparisons, which is going to be inevitable, and it's somewhat understandable, because there are some similarities there from a skill set standpoint, although I'd look at Patrick Williams more Lou Aldeng than Kawhi Leonard. The reality is when you compare it to the Spurs situation, you know, when they won that last championship, Kawhi was in his third year. Duncan was 37. Ginobili was 36. Tony Parker was 31, 32, and starting to decline already. So there was already that opportunity for Kawhi to step up and take on a larger role, which he certainly did in that year's NBA Finals. That's why he was the Finals MVP. But this team is built differently. LaVine's just coming into the peak of his career. DeRozan's in the peak of his career. Vucevic is in the peak of his career. Why are those guys going to step back or be in a position to take a step back to allow Patrick Williams to grow and develop? Like, you know, at this point in time, I wish they'd go make some type of big aggressive move for somebody like a Pascal Siakam or something, or do something. Because I'm not sure how much more of his upside you're really going to see unleashed here. I'm not sure how much better this team is going to get with Patrick Williams' development in his role and what it's going to be for this team. And that lack of rebounding and shot blocking and post defense concerns the hell out of me. And when I look at this team, there's also that piece of, you know, Lonzo Ball's got a bit of an injury history. When he goes down, which is going to be inevitable probably, unfortunately, what's going to happen then? They're going to be an offense again without a real, true facilitating point guard. Like I said, I think this team is better. But goddamn, would I feel a whole hell of a lot better if they remade this bench a little more and they got at least one more post guy that could defend and rebound and block some shots. I'd feel a whole lot better if they got two of them, but definitely one of them. I'd feel a whole lot better because even when you look at their bench, all the backups in terms of the backcourt, they're all more like point guards or combo guys. I'd be nice to have like one more true 2-3 type of wing. And maybe you're pointing to Troy Brown being that. But as much as I like Troy Brown in terms of a smaller bench role, like I'd like to see another one of these veterans that you could bring in with some type of championship experience. And when I look at this team, you look and you say, where's the championship experience? Okay, where is it? Alex Caruso, that's your championship experience? I'm not saying don't be excited about the Bulls, because they're going to be better this year. And they'll be in the mix. I'm sorry, I'm just not satisfied with being in the mix. I want to be a contender. I want to win a championship. And this roster, as currently constructed, it ain't it, son.